Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest updates that matter to you. Now, if you're a universal credit claimant or you know someone who is, this video is a must-watch. In fact, it's critical. Why? Because there's breaking news today that you absolutely need to be aware of. The Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, has issued an urgent alert about a £50 fine for universal credit claimants, and it could impact many of you. Now, we know how stressful it can be to deal with benefits, especially when changes come out of nowhere. That's why we're going to break it all down, explain what the new £50 fine is all about, and give you the crucial information you need to avoid this penalty. Trust me, this is something you want to stay on top of. So, grab a seat, and let's dive in. First things first, let's get some context here. Universal credit, as you probably know, is the UK government's system for providing financial support to individuals and families on a low income or those who are out of work. It's been a lifeline for millions of people, especially since the pandemic, with many people relying on it to pay for essential bills, housing costs, food, and other necessities. But, of course, with the support comes certain responsibilities. One of the most crucial things you need to keep in mind as a universal credit claimant is to stay on top of your commitments. You're required to actively look for work, attend meetings with work coaches, and report any changes in your circumstances to ensure you're receiving the correct amount of benefits. Now, here's where things get interesting, and somewhat frustrating. The DWP has issued a warning that if you fail to meet certain requirements or miss a deadline, you could face an immediate £50 fine. Yes, you heard that right, £50. Now, let's break down exactly what you need to know about this fine and how you can avoid it. The £50 fine is being introduced as part of new rules for universal credit claimants who fail to meet certain obligations. Now, you might be wondering, what could I possibly do to trigger this fine? Here's the thing, the fine applies to claimants who fail to respond to certain requests from the DWP, such as failing to attend scheduled appointments or failing to meet work-related requirements. So, let's say you miss a meeting with your work coach. If you don't give the DWP a good reason for why you missed it, or if you don't reschedule and make sure you attend the next one, you could face a fine. Similarly, if you're supposed to provide information about a change in your circumstances, such as a change in your income, your living situation, or your family, and you fail to report it on time, again, you could find yourself hit with this £50 fine. It's worth mentioning that this fine isn't an automatic penalty. You'll usually be given a chance to explain your situation or reschedule appointments. However, if you repeatedly fail to meet your responsibilities or don't act within a reasonable time frame, the fine becomes a reality. So, the key here is communication. If you're in any situation where you think you might miss an appointment or need more time to provide a piece of information, you have to reach out to the DWP. You're probably wondering, why is this happening now? What's changed? Well, the truth is, the DWP has been tightening up its approach to universal credit for a while now. The government has been introducing various measures to ensure that claimants are meeting their responsibilities and using the system as it was intended. Over the years, there have been complaints and concerns that some people have been slipping through the cracks and receiving benefits without fulfilling their obligations. So, in an effort to make sure the system remains sustainable and fair, the DWP has decided to enforce stricter penalties for non-compliance. The £50 fine is just one of several measures being introduced to deter people from taking the system for granted. The DWP's goal here is to encourage better adherence to the rules, and to make sure that those who are genuinely in need of assistance can receive it without any unnecessary delays or issues. Now, let's talk about who this fine will actually affect. While the £50 penalty applies to universal credit claimants across the board, there are a few groups that are more likely to be affected than others. If you're someone who has just started receiving universal credit or are relatively new to the system, you might be unfamiliar with some of the reporting requirements, deadlines, or appointments that the DWP expects you to keep. This could put you at greater risk of missing a deadline or failing to report a change, which would trigger the fine. Those of you who have complex claims, for example, if you have multiple household members on your claim or your situation changes frequently, are also at risk. Sometimes, it's difficult to keep track of all the different elements of your claim, and this can lead to oversights or missed deadlines. Lastly, if you've had a history of non-compliance with the DWP in the past, you might find yourself under closer scrutiny, which means you'll need to be extra diligent about keeping up with your responsibilities. Even if you're otherwise meeting your obligations, a missed appointment or failure to report a change could lead to the dreaded £50 fine. Alright, now that we know what the fine is and who is most likely to be affected, let's get into the big question: how can you avoid this fine? The good news is, there are a few simple steps you can take to make sure you stay on track and protect yourself from this penalty. First, keep track of all your appointments with the DWP. You should be receiving notifications about upcoming meetings or tasks that you need to complete, but sometimes life gets in the way, and things can slip your mind. So, set reminders on your phone, mark them on a calendar, and double-check that you're not missing anything. If for any reason you can't make it to an appointment, make sure to contact the DWP right away and explain the situation. They're generally willing to work with you, as long as you communicate. Second, stay on top of reporting any changes in your circumstances. If anything changes, whether it's a new job, a change in income, or even moving houses, you need to report it to the DWP as soon as possible. Delays in reporting changes can result in the wrong payment amount, and in some cases, fines. Next, make sure you understand all of the commitments you've agreed to when you signed up for Universal Credit. If you're unsure about anything, don't hesitate to reach out to the DWP or ask your work coach for clarification. It's better to ask up front than to risk making a mistake down the road. Finally, if you're struggling with the system or have any questions, remember that you're not alone. There are various support services available, including charities and advocacy groups, that can help guide you through the process. Don't be afraid to lean on these resources if you need them. One thing we should also address is the potential impact of this fine on vulnerable claimants. The £50 fine could create additional stress for those who are already struggling financially. For some, a missed appointment or a minor oversight could mean the difference between getting by or facing a financial crisis. The DWP has tried to make allowances for vulnerable claimants, but it's important to be aware of how even small errors could lead to significant penalties. If you're someone who is dealing with mental health issues, a disability, or any other condition that makes it harder to stay on top of your universal credit responsibilities, it's even more critical that you have the proper support in place. Letting the DWP know about your circumstances is key to ensuring that you're treated fairly and that you receive any extra help you need. So, there you have it, the DWP's new £50 fine for universal credit claimants. It's a serious issue, but with the right knowledge and preparation, it's something you can easily avoid. The most important thing is to stay on top of your appointments, report any changes on time, and communicate with the DWP if you're facing any issues. As always, I'll be keeping an eye on any updates regarding this, and I'll make sure to keep you all informed. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone you think could benefit from this information. Remember, staying informed is the best way to avoid these types of issues. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.